quantum science and knowledge. The Great Wave of Consciousness. We are currently witnessing a constellation of societal consciousness that is entirely unique in its nature, a revolutionary shift in the fundamental structure. For the first time in recorded human history, religion and science agree on their basic tenets. Let us briefly summarize the respective intellectual dynamics. Modern approaches. Physical science, which deals with the innermost core of the universe, quantum mechanics, began to take shape around the turn of the 20th century, the time when Max Planck recognized that energy always occurs in packets, formulating, more or less, the wave and particle dynamic. Other thinkers, Wolfgang Pauli, John von Neumann, above all Niels Bohr and Erwin Schrödinger, Werner Heisenberg, Paul Dirac, and not least Albert Einstein, also contributed to this development. You are a creator. In two groundbreaking experiments, for which, after centuries, the time had surely come, this group of intellectuals not only questioned humanity's self-understanding, but transcended it. Schrödinger's cat and the double-slit experiment opened the door to a completely new freedom, as well as to a gigantic individual responsibility. Schrödinger's cat. In the experimental setup known simply as Schrödinger's cat, a cat is placed in an opaque box along with a Helm machine, a radioactive particle that has a 50-50 chance of bursting a potassium hydroxide capsule. What Schrödinger intended to demonstrate here is the fact that, as long as the box remains unopened, the cat exists in a kind of superposition. Above all else, it is neither dead nor alive, or rather, both at the same time. Consciousness creates reality. If an observer now opens the box, the decision is made. In physical terms, this means that the moment the box is opened, i.e., when consciousness accesses the thing, the wave function collapses. The wave, pure energy, becomes a particle. This means, quite logically, that consciousness creates reality. We are not merely observers of our reality, but its creators. The double-slit experiment underscores this insight. Double-slit experiment. In this experiment, the transformation of wave into particle is demonstrated by light particles passing through two narrow slits, with a screen behind them, either as particles or as waves. The light pattern that appears on the screen, either a wave in an unobserved state or, collapsed, a particle, i.e., tangible matter, when an observer is present, exhibits the same dynamics as in the cat experiment. We are reality and its observers. What does this mean for us? As science generally states, and as Schrödinger also noted in his famous speech, we are not observers of reality, but observers and reality at the same time. Another astonishing phenomenon is what science now calls entanglement. Every single atom in the universe is causally connected to all others, even beyond the speed of light. The search for meaning. Each of us knows that strange feeling that something isn't right with the world. No matter what we accomplish in our lives, we lack an ultimate meaning. There exists a vague doubt, a lack of understanding that gnaws at us. Something seems utterly paradoxical, yet we can't for the life of us figure out what it could be. The universal key. The key to understanding lies in one word, the concept of absolute. Absolute means all-encompassing, all-pervading, all-embracing, everywhere, through everything, with everything, in everything. The absolute is perfectly free. There is no outside. Everything is contained within the absolute, so there can be no opposites. When we speak of creation, we surely acknowledge that it must necessarily be absolute. Looking further, we discover that the only concept that fulfills all the conditions for the absolute, and the absolute can only exist once, is the word, the concept of love. Creation is absolute love. Thus, we recognize that creation must be love, for entirely rational and comprehensible reasons. Absolute creation, God, is our Creator, we are His only begotten children. The absolute can only be transmitted in its entirety. This clearly means that we are absolute creatures, children of love. As human beings, we are pure love. The point is that we are neither truly able to understand this nor even to see it. Because our ingrained conditions prevent us from fully grasping it, society blinds us. Overcoming attachments, suffering. Buddhism identifies the root cause of this blindness as attachments, thoughts, emotions. When we overcome the attachments of the physical world, the suffering, the dynamics of our social communities, we are able to recognize the structures, the vision is promised to us. First, however, it is up to us to recognize that these attachments arise from our thoughts. Our thoughts are the cause. Cultivating loving thoughts. Buddhism recognizes a store mind, the store consciousness, and the life mind. In the store mind, all possible emotions are hidden, present, already existing, in the symbolic form of seeds. One can imagine a garden. Those seeds that are nurtured, that are given water and nutrients, they grow. Once they have shot up, they emerge in the life mind. Anger, avarice, greed, aggression, joy, compassion, love. Transcending negative thoughts. It is therefore up to us to let go of our negative thoughts, and ultimately all thoughts. This is practiced in Buddhism through the Noble Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths, with which we overcome and transcend our karma of the life path of samsara, entering into nirvana. What becomes apparent here is the overwhelming correspondence between Buddhism, religion in general, and quantum mechanics. Source tone exists everywhere. One can certainly state that all religious currents of this known world and time share a common source. These are, all of them, proclamations of the Vedic scriptures, an Indian cultural treasure. The Vedic scriptures existed in oral form for an unknown period before 6000 BCE. At that time, they were written down for the first time. They contain a gigantic repository of knowledge. It deals with agriculture, education, governance, and many other topics, including, in a completely fascinating way, the cosmic perspective on our universe. Ancient, cosmic wisdom, the Vedic scriptures. What was truly overwhelming was the fact that the Vedic scriptures contain the latest findings of quantum science down to the smallest detail. The words of this source of information are, of course, more poetic, written with more powerful language, than the sober abstractions of science on this subject, which fundamentally lack an immensely important element, love. Diametrical perspective. So what is this new worldview and spiritual perspective? What does our description of creation look like now, united in science and spirituality? Well, we are changing our previous standpoint, which describes us as observers of a life lived in victimhood, trapped by conventions, a piece of flesh soon to decay. As soon as we realize that we are not this victim, we begin to be the creators of our lives. Out of helplessness, we are propelled from mere reactivity into creativity, from sad helplessness to accomplishment, from separation into the all-one, the interbeing. For the total number of spirits, the sum of all carriers of consciousness, is one. Consciousness is a singularity that manifests in billions of forms. The credo of both sciences, we are one consciousness. Every second of our lives, we collapse the wave of probability through our holistic being. We are the center of the universes, we are God. Shifting of all basis. What becomes clear, then, is that you are not within reality, you are reality. You are this experience of the world, this consciousness through which creation observes and experiences itself. The world of your perception through feeling, smelling, tasting, seeing, hearing, and touching does not exist out there. This reality does not exist independently of you. There is no outside. What you experience is a projection, the result of your access to the Higgs field, the cosmic unconscious, the universal realm of all possibility, determined by your personality, by your innermost being. The cosmic field of unlimited possibilities. The universes are like an infinite mirror of consciousness, in which you appear simultaneously as observer and observed reflection. Each of these tiny moments in which you direct your awareness, holistically speaking, towards something is an act of creation, a manifestation from the infinite field of possibilities. You yourself are, seen from above, a wave rising and falling from the ocean of consciousness. This wave, it perceives itself for a moment as separate, as distinct, but it has never truly been separate from the great ocean. Erwin Schrödinger. Consciousness does not live in the universe lives in awareness. You are not merely an observer, but both observer and observed situations simultaneously. We experience are a factory of reality, in which the observed and the observer are one and the same. Every thought we have causes the wave of possibility to become matter. This very perspective on things is also reflected in Indra's net from Buddhist terminology. Indra's net. This description of Indra's net, a cosmic view of wholeness, originates from Mahayana Buddhism. In the Sutra of the Flower Garlands, it speaks of a spiderweb in the morning light, its threads covered with dewdrops, jewels, each of which reflects all the others in their entirety. It is quite obviously a poetic description of what is called entanglement in our modern quantum science. We are an inseparable whole. Kybalion. The sciences of humankind are truly ancient, with nearly the same claim as the Vedic scriptures, likely inspired by them. The writings of Hermes Trismegistus, who is said to have once lived in Egypt, are connected, in a somewhat unclear way, to, if not identical with, the Egyptian god Thoth of wisdom. These documents were republished and marketed around the turn of the 20th century as the Kybalion, ship's captain. The 7 Hermetic laws presented here reflect, with astonishing precision, the deeper principles of all religion and physics, of morality. We find here an excellent approximation of the fundamental principles, the sacred, venerable foundation of all worldly wisdom, and a little more. Here we find the fundamental principles, the sacred, venerable bedrock of all worldly wisdom, and a little bit more. A Course in Miracles. Another work that describes the path to the path and consequently arrives at the same conclusions about truth and the meaning of creation is A Course in Miracles. A work for overcoming the non-dualistic mindset that governs our thinking. Here, with a touch of Christian inspiration, our existence as a sleeping, dreaming God in a world of unconditional love is made clear to us with the same consistency. The bestseller Manifestation. Anyone who, in our time of unconditional enlightenment, a freedom of thought diametrically opposed to the intellectual restrictions of past centuries, grapples with the topic of finding meaning in life will likely encounter various works on manifestation all too soon. In a lively mix, all sorts of principles are linked together into a seemingly logical concept, at the end of which everyone can achieve a better life of wealth with the help of quantum manipulation. It still revolves around the sacred, life-pervading principle explained above, presented in a sensationalist and consumer-friendly way, enlightenment in a big package. Absorption of fundamental concepts is necessary. To be perfectly clear, anyone who stands in front of the mirror every day and repeats, "I am infinitely rich," is wasting their time. Until we truly understand this mechanism, and not just intellectually. Until we have undergone a fundamental transformation of ourselves, until we have shed all the fears and prejudices, all the conditions and algorithms, all the learning content that our existence in the physical world almost inevitably carries within it, until then, this wonderful realization will leave us untouched. Reflection of your wholeness. What the universe reflects back to you, the things and situations downloaded from the Higgs field of cosmic consciousness within your universe, the waves that cause your overall consciousness, which still largely consists of fears, to collapse. It is your life, with all its inconveniences, suffering, and thoughts of impermanence, all the bad things and negative thoughts that exist in your mind, in your live mind, grown from your store mind. But also with all the loving, positive things. Distance of frequencies. For it is certainly not the case that this manifestation of a more contented, happier life is impossible. But before we are able to truly operate within this mechanism, meaning to communicate, as long as our spiritual wholeness remains far removed from the higher vibrational frequencies, as long as fears and conditions dominate our self, we will manifest precisely these situations. Changing the foundations of existence. This means, whoever wants to change their life, their existence, smile, must change their life. It is first and foremost up to us to look into our darkness, to sustainably dissolve the unconditional nature of our fears through insight, to transcend them. To love ourselves. Our emotions must be viewed from a superior perspective. We carefully cultivate their seeds in our garden. We understand that we exist within a, living in the state of interbeing, of all one, that we are the center, and that any negative action, of whatever kind, therefore only harms us. Great responsibility. What emerges here as unavoidable is the responsibility we assume, the responsibility that is revealed to us. Indeed, the frequency shift will be lasting, so we should be very cautious with our newly acquired knowledge. A sacred mindfulness is required of us. Yet, nevertheless, these responsibilities are merely a drop in the ocean compared to the froth we represent. We are cared for every fraction of a second by the absolute love of creation, necessary to create other foundations. Before we are able to access the cosmic unconscious, we must speak its language, which knows no judgments, no prejudices, no condemnations. We must communicate in its dialect. And that is love. Absolute, all-encompassing love. Thus we will recognize what our father is, what our mother is. The collapsing wave becomes the tsunami that envelopes us in eternity. Conclusion. Completely irrelevant whether we are consciously capable of transforming our frequencies, whether we even understand fragments, we are the beloved children of an absolute creation that is pure love. The sole aim of this all-surpassing creative force is to lead us to the realization that we are just as much radiant love, one with God, one with the world. And with the absolute power inherent in it, it has been doing this since the beginning of eternity. The world is nirvana. Yet we are not yet able to recognize this.